Wonderful people. What a day.
A great day.
Woo. Should we start this meeting off with a drum roll?
I think everything Aaron should do should become trumpets.
Oh, trumpets. Trumpets.
Like a King's announcement trumpet chorus, that'd just be great.
Trumpet entrance. Let's see what we got.
More like bagpipes in my head.
Bagpipes? I'm down. Love bagpipes. I'm down.
That's
I'm one of the weird ones that like bagpipes.
very Scottish of you. All right, let's get started.
Okay.
I love it. Hey, I think we should start every meeting like that. That's fantastic. All right, Ashley, will you drop the screen for just a second?
Dropping it.
Appreciate it. So Kayla Shinnick is homesick, so Ashley has jumped in and is running the team meeting slideshow until we hand it off to Aaron. So real quick, we're going to go real quick. Can you hit the slide then, Ashley, with our vendor partners? Thank you. Perfect. We want to thank you, all of our affiliate partners. You're not going to get a time to speak today. I'm so sorry because we want to give as much time to Aaron. But hey, I saw Debbie. Look, I'm scrolling through the line here. All of you guys, we really appreciate what you bring to each of our agents and helping them. Debbie, I hope, did your event go off well with the pictures in the park?
That's coming up, thank goodness, because it was rainy sadness, but it's coming up on the 2 weeks. So we're going to have those every month. So don't be sad if you missed your picture, but I'm excited for you guys. I think it's going to be great for your business.
Awesome. Heather, I saw your email as well for all the different claims that you guys paid out. Thank you again for partnering with us. Looking forward to deepening that relationship as we meet this week. Everybody say hi to Heather.
Hi, Heather.
Hi, everybody. Just a quick little feedback is that on February 1st, when it starts our preseason HVAC tune-up for February and March. So make sure you remind your clients that. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I'm scrolling through. I don't see anybody else. If I'm missing Colleen or any of you guys, pipe up real quick. If not, then we're going to move to the next slide. Thank you, guys. Bucket fills. Who has a bucket to fill? Who has some appreciation to share amongst our fellow agents? Anybody appreciating anybody else?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in, Jay.
Jump in.
So I appreciate Ashley's patience with me as we do this onboarding process. I probably hit her with probably more questions in a day than a normal person she ever received, and she's handling them fantastically. So I appreciate her.
Everybody meet John Smith. John Smith is the new broker that's over on the east side. He'll be camped out here, but he will be teaching classes in all locations and going to really bolster our staff to be able to help you guys function easier, better, and help with some technology trainings, contract trainings, all that type of stuff. So very excited to have John on board. Anybody else have a bucket fill?
One for Aaron. I always get so excited when I see he's going to hit us with all the numbers and the data. I want you to know, like, I had to move a lot of things to be here in this moment on this day. You bring a lot of value to me and my team, Aaron, and I don't want us to take it for granted. Like, I am a big nerd. I love being on your calls. So thank you for your time and just preparing all the content because I really need it. And I think I can speak for all of us when I say that.
Well, thank you, Debbie, for the increased pressure there. That's awesome.
Debbie, you could have stopped it. I'm a big nerd. So that would have been, I'm just kidding. That was a joke. These are jokes, people. All right, let's move forward. Is Allison on the call? I'm scrolling down. Allison Bradley, who is our interim MCA. She has an announcement about your 1099. If not, I need someone that's over at 861 to step into her world and see if she can give us our quick update. 3, 2, 1.
I can do that, Jay. 1099s are coming out soon.
That is true. Nice one. Way to be on top of it. 1099s have been supplied to our vendor. We have a partner vendor called Sovos, because you can imagine the number of 1099s, because we prepare them also for our property management companies for their clients. So they have been supplied to the vendor, and they will be mailed out no later than Friday. She was going to give you a little bit more detail, but we'll push that to next week so that we can maximize our time here. And I appreciate it. Nice to see you, Miss Ripley. And all right, take it away, Mr. Wilson.
All right. So we already have the screen up and going. That's all I need, right? I don't need to do anything else. Is somebody else kind of going through the screen, or do you want me to share my screen? So totally up to you guys.
You're
You
the
can share your screen. That way you can be in charge.
Gosh, you allowing me to screw things up.
Or I can do it for you.
Let me go ahead and do this. How about that? Oh, yep. I am going to do this. All right, you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me get to presentation mode. How's that? Presentation mode begins. Okay, maybe. There we go. We good?
Golden.
All right, there we go. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what the heck is going on, because we closed out December, which means we closed out 2020. So everybody should celebrate that, regardless of what happened in the market. So I'm gonna go ahead and read off this little highlighted statement here. So with low mortgage rates and strong buyer demand in most market segments, the housing market of early 2021 looks to continue the trend we saw in the second half of 2020. So my question to you guys is, what trend did you have in 2020 at the latter part? And this is where I go quiet and you guys kind of interact and kind of give me some feedback. Got all day, so.
Well, I will say personally for me, I had a pickup of business. We couldn't find inventory. I was lucky to be on the listing end rather than the buying end. So all my buyers out there, I'm really sorry, buyers agents. It's off to the races, almost to a frantic state.
Somebody else?
I think losing buyers because their frustration of not getting an accepted offer, even at list and no concessions. It's frustrating for them. And I know one buyer I may be losing because they're just, they just want to rent for now. And I'm just like, well, we'll touch back, but he's still frustrated.
Hey, Amber.
Yes.
You're going to take some of these stats today at the very end and sit down and talk with your buyer and see if that's the best option for them.
Okay. Thank you.
So you got it. So let me ask you this here. Was it the market, or was it your activities that increased to get the results that you guys have had?
You know what, Aaron? It's funny that you say that, because quite honestly, the last couple months, quarter of this year, I just have been swamped and inundated. I unfortunately was one of those agents in the first 3 quarters that did let COVID and some of the changes of the market affect me. I didn't start picking up and getting back on track and making, I wouldn't say calls per se, but reaching out to my sphere and doing things that a real estate agent should be doing, being more active. And a lot of it was mindset, and it has all naturally started turning into business. I am so busy. And I do think it was more of a mindset and doing the right things as an agent, not necessarily the market, although that obviously has played a role.
I want to touch on that a little bit there, Michelle. That was one of the things I saw early on. We can only control the things that we control. You cannot control the market. If you think you can control the market, well, good luck. But what can you control there, Michelle?
Absolutely. You can control your mindset and your attitude. And you know what? I'm not going to be able to control what COVID's doing out there, and I have to continue on. I have to build my business. I have to make money. And that's what it is, your mindset and your attitude when you get out of bed every day, getting that routine back on track and not letting the sitting on the couch and listening to the news and all of Facebook with the political environment. You have to focus on your attitude and what your game plan is going to be for that day and every day thereafter.
You know, Michelle, you granted this is a stats class. However, I think you're dead on with that. And what I mean by that is, I'm sure Dan can kind of elaborate maybe a little bit later with some of his morning calls on what neuralistic programming is. What you put into your head is what you're going to get out in the long run. And if you're allowing the media, you're allowing all this stuff, all this negativity to kind of get into your mindset, then guess what's going to happen to your lifestyle? It's that simple. You cannot control what goes on the outside, but what you can control are your activities and your actions daily. So that being said, your activities are going to produce your results.
Right.
So what we're looking at is a couple different things. One is, I'm sure there's people that are probably on this call that didn't have the best quarter or last half of the year that they ever had. One of the things advice that I have for them and is take a look at your activities. Take a look at some of the activity that those that are busy around you, what are they doing? And it may be in forms of things that you cannot really track, you know, meaning what does your schedule look like? Mm-hmm. Are you getting up? Are you on Zoom? Okay. Are you really on Zoom, or are you just on with the camera off and still in your pajamas? You didn't start your day yet. So I think you got to show up. That's one of the first things, and basically get serious about it, because ultimately we all know this. We're in a business that our results are not going to be, you know, shown in a statistical format or a check format or whatever you want to call it for 30, 60, or 90 days out. What we're doing today, we're not going to see the results of. So that being said, yeah, Amber's losing buyers. You know, there's a lot of competition out there for the buyers right now. A lot. Matter of fact, I'm going to say probably the most extreme we've ever seen. And here's the thing. It's very similar in a lot of other cities that are out there. Some cities are worse than what we're at. And I say worse, it's only worse for the buyers. Because right now, if you, and please take no offense to this, but if you can fog a mirror right now, you could probably sell a house if you list it. Okay? So the skill set really doesn't have to be there on that side of the fence. But if you're a buyer's agent right now, you better start honing those skills, and that's to be done ahead of time.
That was good, huh?
Yep. So what we're going to get into is we're going to kind of get into what has happened and where we're looking at things going. Here's the thing.
Aaron, can I interrupt you real quick? Yeah. So you just said something that has actually, I think everybody, all of us agents need to be able to handle as far as an objection from sellers, because you know, here we are going on listing appointments, and you have these sellers that are like, why should I hire you? Like you said, is if you can fog up a mirror, you can sell a house in today's market. So what makes us the reason, why should they hire us? Those are, I think those are
about the storm
we all need to talk about.
You're watching it. Stormy, mute yourself.
You're right.
It was nice. Right?
Hey, everybody mute yourself, please, if you don't mind. That being said, you know what? I'm going to touch on that a little bit when we get into the new home construction as well. You know, what is your value? What is your value? What are you bringing to the table for your client?
You're still in their court. You're still their person that if they need help with something, they go to you, not the builder.
Great. Yeah, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, because we're seeing a pretty interesting shift right now. And I'm not talking a shift into a buyer's market. So you'll see what I'm talking about there. So the good thing about this is whenever anything's in print that somebody else prints out, that's some pretty valid information for somebody to read. Okay. As long as it's not Wall Street Journal, as long as it's not The Onion or something of that nature. But bottom line is, this is from the Tucson Association of Realtors that printed this out. So I would actually use some of this information to help your buyers understand and help your sellers understand. Both, you know. So that being said, that's kind of an overview of what we see here. So let's take a look at what's really happening in the numbers here. So if you take a look at this, I highlighted the month of December. Okay, month of December, new listings is the lowest all year. Now, I don't know if you remember last month or not. Let me see here. Hang on. I have last month's stats right here. So last month, I pointed out that December has been under 1,000 new listings for the last 10 years. So if you take a look at this, see this little dip right here? Every single sharp dip at the bottom is in December. So for the past 10 years, we've been under 1,000. And guess what just so happened to happen this month? I'm not saying predictable analytics, but you know what? 10 years in the running, I think we got a pretty good idea that the month for us to look at is November and December for a lack of listings. And you compile that with what's going on in our market. That's why we have the issues with buyers right now. We have nothing to sell on the resale side. And if we do have something to sell on the resale side, we have a lot of opportunity. Basically, I'm not saying that the seller can pick their price. We know better than that because sometimes we have appraisal issues. However, you know what? We've had some of the largest, or not largest, the most cash offers that we've ever seen. So we got to look at that. So the money's on the sideline coming from somewhere. Where is that somewhere? Has anybody else experienced a huge influx of individuals from California?
Absolutely.
Okay, just asking.
And the East Coast.
And East Coast, yes. Matter of fact, I was speaking with an agent in California. They're having an influx of individuals from the East Coast, i.e. New York, into LA because their price point's lower.
That's funny. You know, the other influx is those folks that were planning to retire here in Tucson in the way out future, but because their jobs are now allowing them to work remotely, are moving their plans up and moving to Tucson to just go ahead and start. Might as well, because they can work remotely.
Ladies and gentlemen, this all began in March, 9 months ago. Now, they didn't decide that 9 months ago. They just started feeling the effects 9 months ago is when it started. So therefore 6 months ago is when they started to feel it. And guess what? They're like, you know what? All right, we're done. We're out. We're going to go ahead and change plans. I mean, just look at your own family members, maybe if they're in different states. Have their plans changed? Has their job? Let's just ask right here on the call. How many of you are now working from home more than you ever have? There you go. Same thing with them. Unless you're at a factory where you have to go in and turn the machine on, push the widgets. We're figuring ways out in order to do business in a totally different way that can actually enhance our business. So yeah, we have a totally different dynamic that's here. So with that being said, lowest amount of listings that we've ever had for the year. So then we get into what happened here? There we go. We still sharing screen. Oh, now let's talk about pending sales. Are we still good?
Yes, we're good.
Pending sales right now was down again. It was down in the month of December as well. On the resale side. However, it was up on the new home sale side. I'll get to that as well.
It only makes sense though, right? I mean, and you're going to get to that, right?
That's right. So when you have lack of supply and a high demand, what does that do to prices? Obviously, it pushes it up. So one of the concerns that I think that we all should be concerned with is we're not seeing a huge spike, but we're seeing it bypass what our median is here in Tucson when it comes to our job market. But is that a factor if people are coming in with cash? Not really. So we got to take a look at both of these sides of the equation. And I threw some slides in here that we're going to talk about at the very end, which is actually what the rental rates are doing right now. Because that's a huge factor as well, because guess what? You have these buyers, you know what? I can't find a home. So you know what? Heck with it. I'm going to go out and rent. That's fantastic. Well, you'll see what those numbers are. And you know what? It might not be in their best interest to look at that avenue. So if you're homeless right now and literally can't find a place to rent and can't find a place to buy, you're probably going to be moving in with somebody.
Hey, Aaron.
The issues that we have here. Yes.
One other thing that I think is worthy of pointing out here, The December year to year, even though, that we've trimmed down and the deals are less, look at the 30% increase in SFRs and the 45% increase in sales in townhomes. This is probably the best December that we've seen in a while, even though it was still behind. But again, a lot, when it comes to available inventory, what's on the market right now, and sellers that are like, buyers rather, that are like, well, we're still looking to try and find a bargain. It's not going to, our bargain is getting it at list price.
List price is the starting point, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
It's not what they'll accept. And maybe that is the conversation to start off with. And if you have somebody that wants to go in and, try and get, I'm going to say, the deal, there's people out there that have a lot higher motivation that need a home. They have to have a home. It's not that they're trying to get a deal. They just have to have a roof over their head. So we have to understand that side of the equation as well, and how much are they willing to do? What techniques are they willing to do? I mean, what are some tactics that some of you are seeing or using or doing? And I'll throw some out here in a minute, but what are you doing to help solidify that buyer on your side of the fence?
I think most popular thing people are using is escalation clause.
Okay, escalation clause. One of the problems with escalation clause, though, can be what? If it's a finance property, you're gonna be fighting the appraisal.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of people doing the appraisal guarantees, being able to pay a dollar amount over their asking price in the event the appraisal comes in light, just to give some added benefit there.
One of the most, and I haven't seen it here yet, but this was up in Seattle. I was talking with an agent that was up there that, okay, granted it was just over $1 million, but here's the thing. They offered $170,000 over the list price. Okay, 2, no appraisal contingency. 3, non-refundable earnest money that went straight to the seller upon acceptance of the contract. So here's my question to you. How bad did that buyer want the property?
Real bad.
There you go. So here's the thing. If they want it bad enough, they're going to do whatever they got to do. Now, that being said, most buyers can't do that.
Right.
So we just have to think about this a little bit, is how bad do they want it? What's their motivation on a scale of 1 to 10? I mean, in their head, they may say a 10, but there's people that are out there to do whatever they got to do. Meaning go around you, go knock on the door, plead and cry with the seller. How extreme is it? Okay. So I'm going to kind of get into a little bit of a trend analysis on what's coming up here in just a moment here. But yeah, so it's pretty aggressive on the buy side, and on the listing side, there's a lot of times where we can actually forecast that the prices will probably go up just a little bit here in the future because of the demand that is out there from the buy side. Closed sales. So this is kind of cool. So we had closed sales. It was actually an increase. And if you take a look at the last year, and I have it circled there, this is not a traditional trend. If you take this and kind of take a look at what has happened here compared to last year, compared to the year before, you see this downward slide? We had an uptick, kind of an awkward little piece right here. Now, I'm not going back here into this area here, but as you see, we typically have that downslide throughout the year, but we didn't. We had activity levels increase, which is good. However, when we have closed, it means it comes off the market, so we need more inventory. That's our problem. Lack of inventory, high demand, prices keep going up, and we're going to get to that one. So days on market, as you see right there, we can only go down just a little bit further. That's about it. 23 days on market is what our market is performing at right now. That right there being said, anything that's under 30 to 40 days means there's a lot of cash deals that are happening. So that's exactly what's happening. If you take a look at that, here's the other thing too, though. Keep in mind, take a look at back in October, November, and December right here. 19, 20, 23. We've actually increased on days on market. It's a little bit different there.
But I think it's because the price increases across the board.
Because every seller wants to get as much as they want. But here's another question for you. What are the sellers typically doing when they're selling?
Buying their home.
I haven't met too many sellers, or I don't meet a lot of sellers. I haven't heard of a lot of sellers that are moving out of Tucson into another city somewhere that, the majority is we're having an influx of people that are coming here. So that demand is there too. So if they are selling, they're moving up. So keep that in mind too. And when you start to look at these price bands, what are they moving into? What are they looking at? Where are the soft spots for them to potentially purchase, and how are they purchasing? What kind of loans are they using? All this comes into play. So to try and throw one blanket over this entire market is kind of nonsense. We have to break it down into segments. So, but yes, we're seeing a very, very low days on market. That's one of the indicators to where you start to see a shifting market when we start to see that increase. However, it's hard for me to even say an increase when we're under 30 days on market. That's just, in my opinion, a little bit ridiculous, but we have sustained that for some time now, which we know is not sustainable. Median price. So median price is at 285. Okay. That being said, that's one of the largest that we've had historically in Tucson. However, compare that to everywhere else in the nation, we are still sitting very low. So it's very attractive for out-of-state buyers coming into Tucson, taking a look at where we're at and what we do. And you know what? If we're at a lower price point, what does that do to their affordability index?
Aaron, if I'm looking at this right, it's very interesting. So from January, we started at 245 and now we're at 285, with it creeping up consistently every month with the exception of November.
The last quarter.
Yeah.
And this is median. So this is kind of a lot of a more, I'm going to say a raw number versus when we're dealing with average, which is going to show us more of a price point. Okay. And you'll see that here in a minute. If they're both in alignment, then what that means is basically the market is actually, that's a true indicator of what the market's doing. When we see a spike in our average price point, that can be a couple things. Okay. And typically it's an indicator that the higher price point is selling. Okay. So you're right. That's why I blocked this off. Over the last 4 months, we've pretty much seen a flat line. Now that may be tighter restrictions with appraisals. It can be a variety of things. However, that is interesting to me when it comes to this point, because here's the thing: if that's a medium price point, and we go back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, what was the entry level? What was the first time home buyer looking at? What price point?
150 or less.
180.
Now, that being said, it pushes these first time home buyers out of the equation. I don't care what interest rate you got. And we are where we're historic lows on interest rates, which when we end this call, I want to have a little bit of a conversation around that, because my concern is going to be that rental market on what's happening there, and what do these buyers do, and how we lock them out from even purchasing.
But even at $285,000 for a price for median, we're still below national average by 25,000.
Absolutely.
But it still makes us affordable. We're just hedging out people that live in Tucson and work in Tucson. That's able to now own in Tucson, unfortunately.
That's exactly where I was going, Dan. Well, good luck for the individual that's working over there at Amazon. Because the price, because their wages at their current job here in Tucson. Now, combine that with individuals that are actually, their company is out of Connecticut somewhere, and they're able to move to Tucson, and they have the affordability of Tucson. However, their salary is still the same where they were at. So wealth is coming into the city because their jobs are still outside of the city now. That's how it's totally different right now. And it is cheaper labor when it's physically here in Tucson, but not outside the box. So average sales price, 3 months, kind of in that same ballpark. You're looking at 340, 350-ish, right in there. It's pretty much flatlined as well, as you see right here. So it's going to be pretty interesting in the next couple months. On the very first page of the report, they had mentioned, we see it being strong all the way through the first quarter of the year. And you know what? I see no reason for it not to be. We are not seeing any indicators. And Debbie, you still on the call by chance? What are you seeing with interest rates right now? What are they looking at? And what do you?
They are still really low. It's funny. They ticked up like 0.25%. So we're like, oh, we're so sorry. The 30 years 3.14. We're like, everyone's like, oh, that's so high. You know, it's like that was a week ago. And then this week, oh, we call everybody good news. It's back down to 2.9. Oh, great. And so it's crazy talking about how you can fog a mirror. It's so different what we're willing to tolerate as interest rates right now. So really teaching and the whole culture of that have changed this last year. So to your guys' point and to Michelle's point, you can lock a loan at anybody can lock a loan at a great rate. So the rates are low, but what we're seeing that is going to get these Tucson buyers back into the market is they dropped the credit scores to 600 this week.
Oh my gosh.
So that's been huge because FHA and VA is now 600 credit score. So we've seen tons of people that live and work in Tucson just this week alone have been able to qualify and get these homes that maybe other buyers don't want because they're looking for another den for an office. So, I mean, there are ways around it, guys, if we can just be the biggest nerd in the room and know our stuff.
So
Debbie, what did you say about they dropped the qualification for the
A 600 credit score, you can get an FHA loan. It used to be 640, 620. They kind of always were jumping around, but now it's 600 on the dot.
Wow.
Debbie, can you speak to what's going to happen now that the Fed is no longer incentivizing buying mortgage-backed securities and such like that? Isn't that going to naturally inflate the interest rate throughout?
I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but if I'm looking at my big nerd graph, right? And Stormy,
Yeah.
my notebook, right? You're my big nerd graph. Yeah. So we're trying to educate as many people as we can. And a lot of your buyers don't want these 189 homes, but a lot of first-time home buyers, they do want these homes by the train tracks, they don't care. They want that dream of home ownership. And so some of this inventory, we all know it sucks. No one wants to buy it, but we have to find those people that want to and really get them into these homes because for them,
Debbie, if you don't mind, just so we can do this here and just as we get to it, do me a favor for a VA buyer,
Yeah.
$200,000 property, ballpark, what their payment would be.
Yeah.
You know,
I can even go, and when you're ready for that, I'll even go and kind of do some stuff on my side. So when you're ready to talk about that,
and the reason I want to do that is I want to kind of show some things here that are tangible.
We're not there yet.
Relate
Okay.
to what our industry is actually kind of experiencing right now. So
Yeah.
we kind of have a conversation with people. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Good. So average sales price up, median sales price up. What are sales prices doing? They're going up. That's just that simple. I think that's a no-brainer for us. How much longer will they go up? We don't know. When will interest rates go up? We don't know. However, that's always, a concern to some buyers. Well, you know what? The market's kind of peaked out. Why should I buy? And I think it's digging into things a little bit deeper on what their situation is and what they're currently paying, what rental rates are doing, et cetera. So, yeah. So percentage to list price to sales price. This is probably one of the most boring stats over the last 10 years. Bottom line is anything over 98% is pretty strong. So if you list the property for 200,000 and it should theoretically sell for how much if we're sitting at 99.6? So there you go. That's where it kind of shows a buyer that, hey, listen, that list price is pretty much a starting point for you.
Well, and really I don't even consider this to be accurate on a general level because most of the homes that are selling are full price or above. The only reason this is showing less than 100% is because you have those few and far between that are overpriced and or in such a higher price point that they are negotiating a little bit because that's not even accurate.
Correct. And so what you'd have to do is you'd have to go by price banding.
Yep.
To figure out exactly that. And what you'll notice is it's actually over 100% in most areas.
Yeah. That makes better sense.
There you go. So when you're talking to a buyer and they're looking in a certain zip code, bring up the stats in the zip code as well. They can look at this all day long, but when they're looking in that zip code, they're actually getting a more accurate reading of what's going on. And then setting that expectation so they don't have an unrealistic expectation going in and wondering why they got beat out when they offered full price. Oh, and they're paying their own closing costs. Oh, and they're just keep going on the laundry list because that's exactly what we're trying to do. You know, so yeah, I get it. The frustration's there for buyers. And if you have a huge inventory of listings, my guess is you probably don't have too many active listings. They're all under contract.
You know, going back to trends and then being on this slide of percent of list price received, the trend I've seen with my last couple of buyers just this week in the last 3 houses I've shown is that agents are definitely, whether it's because of the directive of their seller or maybe they're just wanting, you know, rock star agent, they are overpricing their homes significantly to the point of, if we're doing our due diligence and fiduciary to our clients, that I mean, I have 3 listings that my buyers are looking at right now that I cannot, you know, recommend that they buy them at that price. It's,
Gotcha. You know,
they are so
Michelle,
overpriced.
that's probably a 3-hour conversation because it gets emotions involved. And here's the thing, we are the experts.
Yes.
And you're right. In the way I heard you there, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's like, I wouldn't pay that much.
Exactly.
However, what we have to remember is the buyer's motivation.
Yeah, but they have an appraisal they have to work with, and you're setting them up to pay inspections and appraisal fees for it to just bounce back in the end and then walk away. So you've wasted time and money for your client.
Michelle, lately, how many times have you been surprised that an appraisal came back above value or at value when you were sure it wouldn't? That's been happening a ton lately. So I don't think we're seeing the same thing in the coaching program. Is there's so many properties we review that I can't give an onus on, you know, I can't validate this through a CMA, but it goes back to Aaron says, the buyer's motivation. Are you willing to take on that responsibility as if the appraisal comes in light? How much cash can you throw at it to make sure you buy this house?
Right. Definitely having those conversations. I never say, no, we can't do this, but I properly counsel them, as we should all, that, like you just said, Dan, what are you prepared to do? What are you prepared to do?
And I think when we're able to throw these stats in front of them and show them what's going on and ask them, what do you want to do? Now it's 100% their decision, whether we agree with it or not. That's one thing I just want to be very clear on. When we get emotional, they're going to get emotional.
True.
If we are and I'm going to say this as agents, if somebody says, well, how much would you offer? Back off. Here's the stats. Here's what it looks like. It has nothing to do with what I would offer because I don't want to buy the home. So therefore, let's take a look at, you know, yeah, it's looking like, you know, it's basically 30,000 over any kind of price range. But here's the deal. It's going to be one appraiser that goes in there to determine that at the time frame that they go in. So I just say that we have to, when we're looking at these numbers, we have to kind of disconnect from emotion if we're going to continue with this. Affordability index. As you see, we're low on the affordability index. Now you see the spot, it's actually kind of an inverse ratio. So back in about 10, 11 years ago, we were actually at a higher affordability index, which means that it was actually a lot more affordable here than pretty much anywhere in the nation. We have increased in our pricing. So therefore, if we see, let me ask you this, if we see an uptick in interest rates, what do you think that will do to affordability index?
It's less.
Mm-hmm. So it's actually going to go inverse. You're correct. So therefore, that being said, we've been pretty stable over the last, 8 years. That's what is very attractive to outside buyers outside the state coming into Tucson is, they're moving from, I don't care, California somewhere, and they just sold their $1.5 million home, and they come out here and they, you know what, I can buy a $600,000 home that's twice the size. Oh, and I have almost $1 million in the bank. Why wouldn't I do that? I'm just cutting my career 2 years short, but heck, time is impeccable. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of that right now. Inventory of homes for sale. So this is the ugly one for us. If there's any slide to show, it's probably this one to a buyer. this is this, and you can even on the bottom portion of the slide, or probably on this side of it, pain is down here. You get to go look at about 15,000 homes in a day if you want to up here. This is why it's painful. Right there. We're at the lowest amount of inventory ever.
Wow.
Okay, I'll say ever. Now, what makes this even more complex is and I got to move my screen here. So we're looking back at 2008 when this chart began. See that 7,000 homes on the market?
Mhm.
How many new homes do you think were built between 2008 and 2020? Think about that a little bit, because if
Not many.
they sold those homes in here, those are a part of this equation, but we're actually looking at a steeper inventory level being more impactful. It's only a new home one time when you sell it. As soon as they go to sell it again, it's a resale. These are resale numbers. So just consider that when we're looking at this, it's a lot more extreme than what the chart shows. Any questions on inventory? As you'll see right here, now if we go back to 2008, that would have been what? 7,000, a little over 7 grand. So imagine that.
I have a question, Aaron.
Yeah.
Since the inventory is so low, I mean, we can only assume it's going to go up, right?
The probability, but here's my question. Typically January and February, we start to see people relist their homes after the holidays. So we see an uptick in the new listings, typically, if we have an uptick in listings. But here's the thing, we have pendings that are up, closings that are up. So that tells me that the buyers are still out there. So it's going to fill a little bit of that gap in the inventory. Now, we're still having problems though, sitting here at the 27th, 28th of January, because there hasn't been enough homes hit the market yet. Home builders can't build fast enough. We'll get into that one. So until we see that inventory increase, we're still going to be in the same boat that we're on right now.
Aaron, I don't see inventory increasing in the next 4 to 6 months, simply because of where we are with interest rates and people moving into the marketplace because of the price point that we're at and so on. I just don't see it.
Well, Larry, let me mention this here too. So we've seen an increase in rental rates as well. Unprecedented increase in rental rates. Now, that being said, if I'm a homeowner and I go to sell my home and I'm only going to make 30 grand, or you know what? Why don't I just turn it into a rental? Because I've got positive cash flow of about $600 a month. So instead of selling that they traditionally would do, they're turning into a mom and pop investor.
And that's why we saw a huge influx in refis.
There you go.
It created that cash flow.
Now, that is what I'm talking about is going to be a concern to me in the long run.
Right.
Because everybody actually has equity going into their property at a higher level because of the refi. Am I correct?
Right.
So therefore, that being said, they're putting themselves in a better position. Everybody that owns a home is. So what is that? That can water down the potential for a rental rate dropping in the future. I just said it. Now, whether that will happen, too many indicators we got to look at, but that is something that is on my horizon. So that would mean an investor would probably, to reduce their risk, put down more money on a property. So just that's a totally different conversation, but that's something to consider and look at that. And that's the thing. We are becoming healthier in our market of homeowners here in Tucson, unless they do a cash out refi. So my advice to you guys is every single one of you is don't use your house like a credit card. Okay. So is there a reason why? Bingo. Okay, month supply of inventory. So there we go. That's the lowest ever as well. We are an extreme seller's market. Okay, so I know people will mention, hey, is it a good market or a bad market? And my response is always, depends on who you're talking to. So there really is no good market or bad market. It's either a buyer's market or seller's market. And right now it's advantageous to the seller. So it's an extreme seller's market. And when you look at the numbers, that means that 0.8, not 1.8, 0.8 means that it's less than a month to sell off every single home that's currently active, meaning whether it's been on the market for 8 minutes or 80 days. All of those, if you didn't have any other homes come on the market, we'd be done with our inventory in less than a month. Extreme. That's why we're having the multiple offers. They don't have a lot to choose from. They can't be picky. Well, they can be, they're just not going to find the home that they really, really, really want. They're going to have to settle on some terms. So listen to the terminology of the buyer, you know, hey, I don't want to settle. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. That is determining their motivation level, whether they know it or not. And our job is to kind of show them this. And this is probably another slide to show them that, hey, this is the worst that we've ever seen in the kind of market that we're in. However, on the positive side, your interest rates are the best that we've ever seen also. So if we're able to get into that property, we need to start doing the happy dance as soon as we get it under contract. Okay. Any questions on month supply of inventory for anybody, where we're at? The probability is what? Going to go up if we have inventory increase, as long as the demand doesn't exceed that? Yes. Okay. All residential properties. So this is kind of an overview of everything that we kind of looked at, except for more in a on high SC. So I can only look at this for about a minute and a half before I geek out and I have to go to another high D kind of product. But that being said, days on market 23 overall for all residential properties, up 32% in pending sales. So our activity levels are up. Days on market down almost 40%. Median sales price up 11%. So I want to kind of touch on this a little bit with about the economics of Tucson here. If we had our median sales price increase by 11%, wouldn't it be nice if the median income in Tucson increased by 11% as well? Because then that would be able to, we'd be able to sustain this price increase. So what I'm getting at is the price increase is not sustainable at this level. However, they've already determined by somebody else's words, not mine, the first quarter looks the same. All indicators look the same as well. I mean, we had so many different factors that could have come into play that, ready, and I'm going to go back to what Michelle and I were talking about, that are beyond our control. Am I correct? Beyond our control. COVID is beyond our control. If they lock us down, if they don't lock us down, if they call us essential, non-essential, that's beyond our control. The election, beyond our control. Get all emotion out of it. Doesn't matter. We can't control that piece, but what we can control is what we do. Now, that being said, we have to also look at where are things going? What are things, where are buyers buying? How are they buying them? And why are they buying them? Sellers is for multiple reasons. Go down to inventory of homes. We have half the amount of homes than we did last year. Half. Mm-hmm. Now, some people can go, you know what? And here's the thing for buyer's agents out there, and I'm going to say this is probably, because I see it within our team, they'll show one or two properties. That's about it. And a lot of times they already know they're putting an offer in on the property before they even drive out there.
Aaron, just an FYI for some of the newer agents, part of your buyer presentation should be to go over the contract with them so that you don't have to take the time to do that when you're trying to submit an offer, because when you get to a point that you're submitting an offer on a property, you've got about 3 hours max to get it put together and submitted.
Yep. And not only that, I think it's about 3 hours too late.
Yeah.
Oh, that's if you're going to be Now, here's the thing, there's some other extreme markets, don't get me wrong. I mean, some of you maybe have experienced this. Hey, do me a favor, somebody in the chat box, what's the most amount of offers that you've received on one of your listings? How about we do that for a minute? I think that would be kind of cool. I will tell you that I've seen 37 by one of the individual up in, and this is up in Denver, and Denver's still in the striving market as well.
I participated in one where we were the buyer and there were 18 offers on the house here down by the U of A.
I have 2 properties that are already in pending status that received multiple offers after it's been switched into pending.
Yeah, I've had the experience of not even putting houses on the market and them selling actually.
Oh yeah. We've sold 2 in the last week in the coming soon stage.
Is that being fair to your sellers and not getting the competitive bids pushing the price up?
Oh, I
It
left
does,
the
it
option.
does when you start off high, because that's your best.
And actually, I just left the option to them. You know, they made their own decision.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So what did we have in the chat box?
Looks like 16's the highest.
Gotcha. So here's what I would, if you're listing properties, I hope you have a system down, and I don't care if it's an Excel sheet or an organized sticky note quorum. You better have something to go over all of these properties, because by the time that you gather all your information and get over to the property, you probably got another 5 more. So get a system around what you're doing, so therefore you can kind of go in and position what's happened.
Aaron, I think another subject that maybe Dan wants to think about teaching is the strengths of offers. It's not necessarily the highest price. In fact, most times that's not the deciding factor.
I will say this right now, and that's a very good point to bring up. And this is going to go for everybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your communication style is or what you recommend. Pick up the phone and call the listing agent and talk. Speak to them.
Absolutely.
Have a communication. Talk. Don't think that a text is going to do it. Or the thing that, and you're going to get me riled up here. Do not send an offer over and then 5 hours later send another email and ask if they got it.
Aaron, I actually won my client's property out of 9 or 10 offers. We were conventional and there were 4 cash offers, and some of them were actually higher than our offer. But I called the agent and she was overwhelmed because she didn't know how to manage or even how to discern what the strongest offers were. And I talked to her for over an hour, educating her on how to handle it. And when it came down to her sellers trying to decide whose offer to take, they took mine because they realized that I was going to be cooperative and help their agent through the process.
Real estate equals relationships.
So, and you know what? Everybody's got a little bit of a different system out there. I know Tracy Castell has a phenomenal multiple offer format in the form of Excel. He's kind of like an Excel nerd as well. And if he's on the call, he can agree to that. But here's the thing. The majority of the time, not all the time, the majority of the time, the seller's looking for what? Net. That's it. What are they going to net? So the price does matter a little bit, but it's what's in between. Time frame. Are they moving out on the time frame that the seller wants? There's so many different factors that can go into this that actually benefit the seller. It's just putting it on paper on the front end so you don't have to come back with multiple offers.
And again, if you call the listing agent and ask them what's important to their sellers, you're going to find out how you can strengthen your offer.
Correct. So communication, pick up the phone, and that resolves a lot of issues later on too. Done. Okay, so just kind of covered resale. Let's get into a little bit of the new home construction, if you don't mind. Hey, you know what, Larry, you got a radio voice, my friend, and I know that for a fact because that's what you used to do. Do me a favor, go ahead and read some of this highlighted material, if you don't mind.
There's no highlight on this slide.
All right. Well,
it's super light.
I'll read it.
It's your vision, my friend, but it's okay. We'll go from there.
So just start at top and go. Is that what you're saying?
Go ahead and I'll stop when you get down to the word why that I wrote to the side.
Big news for Tucson housing for December revolved around the 47% change for the good in December permit activity for the Tucson marketplace. Year to date, Tucson new home permits were up just over 17%, fulfilling the expectations of just about everyone involved in the housing market in Tucson, where we counted 4,336 new home permits for the year. 4,336. Barring some catastrophic event, there is little reason not to anticipate a continuation of strong new housing activity over the next several months and potentially all of 2021 in town. New home closings were up 7.86% from last year, logging a total of 3,526 new homes closed in the Tucson market area. It's important to note that a substantial part of the Tucson housing activity consists of custom homes, and many of those new homeowners already have title to the land, so there is no close of escrow when the home is finished, resulting in an undercount of new home escrow closings versus permit activity. The resale market in Metro Tucson saw 4.6% year-over-year increase in activity, but nearly 27% increase in activity in December, which could bode well for the Tucson resale marketplace in the months ahead. Note that we have a complete analysis of the Tucson resale marketplace as part of the Magic Pro data.
Okay. So I wrote the word Y out there to the side. So the resale market in Metro Tucson saw 4.6% year-over-year increase in activity, but nearly 27% in December. Why?
Year-end tax savings.
Yeah, that's a piece of it as well.
The election. Could it be the election?
As well. There's so many factors that go into this. But a 27% in December.
Because there are so many people trying to buy, December, instead of rolling off, continued to be an active month. We saw that earlier on with that huge increase in the number of houses sold in December. People were not done looking. They didn't care this year about the holidays.
So, you know, and I'm gonna get to this here. When is the best time to educate yourself on something? Right. Isn't it before it happens? So you're not trying to educate during the process?
Right.
So for the majority of people that are on this call, if you don't know what a 1031 exchange is, I highly recommend that you go do a little bit of research on that, because we're seeing a big influx of 1031 exchanges. Now, I'll give you the recap of what it basically is. Somebody that's selling a property and buying another property, but are bypassing the capital gains tax. So they're saving in taxes. Are you with me? Now, one of the issues with that is what? There's timelines. They have to buy within a certain time frame, or they don't get that benefit.
45 days.
They could care 45 days. So they could care less if they're paying a little bit extra versus having to pay the taxes, which is going to be a lot. You with me? That's what we're seeing, and that's what we saw to close out December as well. Has anybody closed a 1031 exchange or dealing with the 1031 exchange? There you go, right now. There's probably a good hand. Now, you go back 2 years ago, you're probably, a lot of people going, what the heck is a 1031 exchange? So educate yourself on the front end, not during the process, and definitely not after. Because if you have an investor, you have somebody that doesn't know about 1031 exchange, and you find out after the fact, they could have had thousands and thousands of dollars worth of savings. So you see where I'm going with that? Learn about it. How about that? Good. Anything else on this particular page? Because this is kind of like a little bit of the overview here. Permits. So Stormy, I know you're on the call. I can only see about 4 of you. What is a permit?
Oh, it's like, well, it's permission to build.
Okay.
Permiso.
Permiso. There you go. So, but what does that mean in the terms of, I'm going to say, let's take our realtor hat off. What does that mean to a homeowner that's in a subdivision? What does that mean to them?
It means they're about to get neighbors.
There we go. There's some building going on pretty close to them or whatever. Okay. What does that mean to a buyer?
There's something to buy.
Yep. And they don't see it yet because it's dirt.
Aaron, I have just a comment about the increase in December. A lot of that may have had to do with the fact that homes had been under construction for 6 months, and a lot of them had a deadline to get finished before the end of the year.
Could be.
And they had a lot more closings just because they were trying to get families in the homes before the end of the year.
Close out. Yeah. Very good probability on that, especially when we're talking new home construction here. So permit is the intent to build. The public doesn't see or hear about permits. They could care less about it. It's just they're going on with their day. But that is something that we need to be paying attention to, because that's where the growth of the city and your future sales are going to be happening. What's the indicator before that, though? Before permits?
Land
Land
acquisition.
sales.
There we go, land. So it might be in your best interest to find out where people are selling land so they can get the permits. So then they can start to build the home, and then people start to see this, I call it sticks in the air. Oh, they're building a house there. That's when the reality hits with the public. We need to educate ourselves on the front end here so we can kind of go in and talk to these individuals, because once they start seeing that new home go in, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but talk to some of these new home builders. Where are their buyers coming from? What's kind of shocking is a lot of them are right in the same area. They want to stay in the same area, but they want to upgrade. Now, if you're the one going out there talking to those different people that are in their home, talking to them about the new home build that's going on, informing them, giving them the information, you're the one that's top of mind, not the new home builder. With me? Okay. So what do we got here? New home permits. It's kind of interesting. We had some of the highest ever, but we kind of got flat towards the last 3 months. That's interesting. Anybody have any ideas on why that may be?
Land up.
A lot of, go ahead, Big Dan.
But they ran out of land to build on.
Yep, they're so far behind, they're stop selling right now.
Well, and there's been such an increase in building materials that they put a moratorium on putting stuff under contract that was going to be more than 6 months out because they can't control their
Okay.
bottom line.
All right, you nailed two things right there that I want to talk about a little bit deeper, but not go down a rabbit hole here. Tracy had mentioned stop selling. John, you'd mentioned, you know what, hey, they ran out of stuff, and you know what? They can't keep up with the pricing because of the cost of goods, the lumber, the concrete, everything else, the nails that go into it, electrical conduits, you name it, has increased in price, which does what to their profit margins?
Erases it.
So they almost had no choice but to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, ready? I'm gonna mention this one too. Or reduce commissions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Or-
some of them are going back to no commissions again.
You ready? Or like Sean just said, no commissions. Now, this isn't going to be any commission talk here, but here's the thing. My question to you, and this is where I think we need to reflect as agents, is what is the value that you're bringing to your buyer? Don't get your ego involved. But what is the value that you bring to your buyer if they purchase a resale home or if they purchase a new home?
Well, on the new home side, you're actually representing them against the builder instead of the builder being both sides.
Okay. Agreed. Totally agree. So what value are you providing them? Because this is where it hurts a little bit, but what value are you providing them on that $400,000 property that you're going to get 3% on? I know you guys just did the math real quick.
Right. Well, I feel like we bring value when we are accompanying the buyer through the whole process and advising them on that purchase and how it affects the future. For instance, going into home planning, choosing options, helping them discern what's important now to them as their lifestyle versus what's important for resale. I feel like that brings value to them.
You know what? Thank you for mentioning that, because that is probably, when you start to dig into their story, you're bringing value. Now it's not tangible evidence, but you're digging in to find out what is best for their situation, and you're helping them write their storybook is what you're doing with your guidance. So my question now, I want to get away from the money thing, because here's the thing. There's a builder right now, very large builder in the nation, that has stopped commissions in certain cities and has actually started here in Tucson, dropping from a 3% down to a 1% commission.
Oh, I know who that is.
Yep, me too. So that being said, here's the thing. There's also changes happening within the new home sales arena, putting people on hourly salary, putting them on or hourly wages or salary, which does what to their profit margins?
Increases
the
them.
profit margin. They're almost at it. They're at a dead end here. So my question to you is, what do you do as an agent if all new home builders tomorrow, because don't think it can't happen. I don't want to scare you, but don't think it can't happen. All of them, if they get their marketing together, why do they need you as an agent?
That's good. We're going to go back to where it was before, Aaron. It's happening. I mean, you might as well say it now. I don't want to scare people either, but we're going to see the new home builder participation with resale agents disappear, because we all know where it was. How many was 5, 8 years ago, whatever it was, where it didn't exist. And then all of a sudden it showed up and it turned into a really good thing. But with their expenses and so on, it was only a matter of time. We talked about this 3 months ago. It was only a matter of time until we started to see this happening. And then once one company starts it, the rest are going to line right up behind them.
Well, they're going to be watching their profit margins increase. And guess what? Well, we're going to have our profit margins increase. We're going to do the same thing. It's a no-brainer. Now, look at your business plan.
Mm-hmm.
If you are only dealing with new home builders as a resale agent, I would highly recommend starting to find another lead generation lever. I really would. Because why? You, as an agent, you have no control over what that builder is going to offer you. However, let me ask you this. If you're listing a property, do you have control over what that commission is?
Yes.
There you go. So there's where your focus should be right there. Either you can control it or you can allow somebody else to control it. If I'm running a business, I think I want to be in control of my outcome, not determining on what somebody else is going to provide for me. Let that sink in a little bit, and it may take a while. It may take a couple months, but seriously, think about that a little bit. Only focus on the things that you can control. And that goes back to the very beginning of the conversation that we had here early on. So we're seeing a flat line, get back to the stats here. We're seeing a flat line in the last quarter. However, it wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing that shoot up here in the next couple months. Okay. 2 slides in one. How about this? This is kind of like a lot of stuff for you high SCs. So that being said, anybody, I don't care, read the left-hand side if you don't mind, please. Don't everybody jump at once.
I don't know that we have a left and a right-hand side. We've got them stacked.
An analysis of new home average and median prices by month over 2020 shows a median price flattening. More and more affordable housing has been brought to market in the region. The continuing increase in the average new home price has been due to the upward pressure on prices because of a combination of cost increases and improving builder confidence. The trend line for median price suggests a flattening of those prices, which is likely to continue into 2021.
All right, takeaways from that, please, anybody? All right, I'll warm it up here a little bit. Median prices month over month in 2020 shows a median price flattening. They're allowing the resale market to catch up. How about that? Okay. They would like to increase it. Would they not? It's shortening the gap between the two is what it's doing. The average, we're seeing that average pop up because of the price points. The affordability is there for a second-time home buyer or a move-up home buyer, but it's not for the first-time home buyer. So the first-time home buyer right now is almost priced out of the market for a new home. That was not the situation years ago. It has moved into that arena. So they're only dependent upon resale right now. This is only our market. However, it's very similar to other markets as well. So that's what that indicates. Tucson average versus median prices, as you see on the right-hand side or over here, they pretty much run parallel with one another. We're starting to see a little bit sharper increase in the median, which means overall prices had increased. And if you look at the trend line just a little bit, we have a pretty steady increase in the trend line as well. And we will continue to see that as long as prices, and you ready, inflation go up as well.
I think you're also seeing the median price increase a little bit more because we're seeing a higher volume of $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 homes selling.
That's right. So there was an agent, I remember a very seasoned agent when I went through one of the first catastrophe, I'm going to say crashes of the real estate market back in 6, 7 or whatever it was. One of the comments was, oh my gosh, I got to work twice as hard to earn the same amount of income. I got to sell twice the amount of homes to make the same amount of money. Another way worded. So one of the things to look at in this particular situation, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but always look at your business plan in the form of what would happen if things would drop. You're going to have to work a lot harder and sell more homes in the future if prices start to dip. Or the control on the commissions are different as well. So just keep that in mind when it comes to building out a business model. All right. Home builder performance stats are always of significant interest in housing professionals, especially as year in the end bragging rights are open to the market. So here's the thing. We're looking at Meritage homes out of the gate, December permits. That's where most of the homes are being built, is by that particular builder. It would probably be in your best interest, and you've heard me say this, probably, I know I'll probably say it in my sleep now. These are the builders that just pick the top 3. Study them, study their material, study what they're doing, study their tactics, what's going on. So that way you can convey this information to your buyer ahead of time. Where are they at in the city? Where are their communities at? What do the communities offer? Second one's D.R. Horton. Third one's Richmond. Now, the ones that had the builder permits for last year was D.R. Horton, Meritage, and Richmond. So that's where the new homes are going, are with those particular builders. It's your job to go out there and figure out what the product is. Now, here's the thing, and I said this earlier, if the builders are able to increase their profits by cutting commissions down and taking that money and reallocating it into marketing, that's a threat. That's a threat to us as agents. So we've got to step up our game and not sit here and say, well, it is what it is. We need to take control of that. We need to be able to understand how to market better than them. Bring that experience level to that consumer, because you can have the consumer love you, love you, love you all day long. And if there's no commissions being paid to go into a new home build, there's different tactics to use, but here's the thing, you got to think about that. If you don't do buyer brokers, that might be a time to where you better be pretty well versed in that if you're going to get paid on that. So just food for thought. All right, the builders, these are the ones that actually closed out the year. D.R. Horton, Meritage Homes, and Richmond American on the left-hand side over here for December. That's just 1 month. Now, this is very similar, except for one community right here, one entire community, third place for all of Tucson, closed out. Does anybody know, are they still offering co-op down at Robeson Community or no? That was a question. This is where you help me out. Anybody, has anybody dealt with Robeson Community?
Yeah, we have one up in Saddlebrook, and they were when we got in contract at least.
Good. Okay, that's up north. I know down in Sarita area, they were not doing co-op down there. Yeah, they'll smile, shake your hand. Thank you very much for your buyer, but no co-op. So just keep in mind that was interesting. Robeson Community, they're very high on the amount of sales. Robeson Community is what? Do me a favor. Somebody tell me what kind of buyer that is.
55 and older.
Okay. I'm just going to say seasoned. How's that? So therefore, that's telling me that they're probably moving from out of town. The probability is higher. Is that what you're experiencing as well? Okay. So this one over here is the subdivisions. Remember I told you about the buyers? Well, this is the actual subdivisions that are actually on fire when it comes to permits. So they're building La Estancia, Madera. Well, let me ask this. Where is that at?
Fremont, not Fremont, Colburn, the freeway.
Okay. Madera Highlands, where's that at? Are you guys,
Sahuarita.
am I talking to real estate agents or
It's
what?
in Sahuarita.
Okay, sorry.
Sahuarita.
We should know where all these are at, like the back of our hand, and basically have a hotline to go right to them. There we go, La Estancia with a different builder. So if there's anything to know, and what this kind of page represents here, you might want to take a little field trip over to La Estancia, would you not? And take a look at the 3 different builders over there and what they're doing and what their offers are and what they're providing for the client.
And let me add to that, they just cleared another entire section of land.
So that tells me they're going to probably build some more homes. It's a no-brainer there. So if you guys, well, they kind of change the location on where the stats are at. They're still in a kind of somewhat general location. However, when they print out the stats, if I printed out all of the stats, I think it's like 50, 60 pages worth of stats versus like 13 that I kind of use. And they go into different areas, such as like the east side, northeast side, west side, south side, central, etc. But the only reason I printed this one out is, and I just picked one just to kind of give you a general idea of what's going on, because they pretty much all look the same, with the exception of some that have very little data, which can be very erratic. That being said, let's talk about the east side a little bit. Remember we talked in the very beginning, I know Michelle was on the call earlier, and we're talking about price bracketing and different tactics to use. So if you take a look at what's going on, days on market on the east side right now is what for the month of December? 15. So they can look at the stats of Tucson all day long and say, oh, you know what? You're at 23. Well, it's even more aggressive in the area that you're looking right now. So if we're talking about that, how aggressive does your offer need to be? Okay. Now, median sales prices increased in that area 17.9%. I will tell you right now, if you're not marketing this and you're not talking to sellers about the price increase of the potential property, if they've owned it for 1 year and they've had a dramatic increase of 17.9%, you need to be doing that. If you want to get a listing, I'm pretty sure that they probably have a high probability of listing their property and taking money out of the property and either applying it or taking it and going to, I don't care, Belize. They have equity in their property. There's a high probability of that right now. Totally different than years in the past. So that being said, inventory of homes for sale a year ago, 2019, was how many? We have half the amount today in just that area. Remember the supply of inventory? All of Tucson was 0.8. We're at 0.6. That's why you're feeling it. Now that's just in this area. Run it, look at it for the specific area that maybe your buyers or maybe even your sellers are in. and kind of adapt it to where they're at. Now, here's the other thing. You want to go even further, and I suggest this, do the same thing for their neighborhood, especially if you're listing it, to kind of show them exactly what's happening in their neighborhood, because that's more specific, okay? So this is where I wanted to end it today and kind of talk about it. I've only got like 2 or 3 more slides here. Days on market for rentals. How many people are having people that, you know what, Amber, are you still on the call? Okay, doesn't appear to be. So anybody have renters that are having problems finding properties as well?
Yeah, I'm getting lots of calls, people needing help finding rental units, and it's very difficult.
Overwhelmingly.
It's very difficult, and I don't want to bash our industry, but you know, it's hard to show property management when a co-op is not even worth the gas taking them in.
Right.
Okay. I get it. So whatever system that you have in play, or have a property manager or managers to go to call direct, find out what's coming up on the market.
My biggest issue with property management when I was looking for it for my brother was we couldn't get into any property or on the weekends when everybody was available. Like we couldn't even get a hold of a property manager.
I know.
And they're not using showing time. There's no system or model on how they're showing their properties.
I get it. I get it. That's frustrating. Very frustrating. And it doesn't seem to be getting any better. If Amber is still on the call, that's one of the things to kind of show on why, you know, hey, this is what's happening right now in our market right now. Everything's flying off the shelves immediately, you know. Single family residence rental prices though, take a look at this. I'm going to keep quiet here for a minute and somebody tell me what you see right here.
Rental prices are going up almost faster than home purchase prices are.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
$300 a year gain over the last 3 years per month. It's huge.
That is huge. So here's the deal. If you had 5 rental properties that you had 5 years ago, and you haven't done a price increase, it justifies it, does it not?
Yes.
Doesn't mean you have to, but it justifies it. If your renter in that property is sitting there at below market value right now, they're scared to death that you're going to increase prices. Now, what do you think that does when their job doesn't support the income for the rental rate increase? Do you see what I'm talking about now? That's a concern to me. Tucson can't support this.
Aaron, there's another hidden factor that people need to be aware of. About 25 to 30% of renters are on the COVID protection list, that they're not paying their rents. And that's having a detrimental effect on a lot of landlords who are not then able to pay their mortgages. And we don't know at what point they're going to lift that moratorium on evictions or foreclosures. But when that happens, there's going to be a dramatic change in our market.
Agreed. Now, here's one of the things. What can somebody that has a property, what can they do? What can they do to make sure that that doesn't affect them? Because it started in March.
Sell it.
They could sell it.
You can't, well, you have a hard time selling it with a non-paying tenant in place.
Once the lease expires, it goes month to month and you don't have to have an eviction.
That's true.
Just think about that. So the strategy of, hey, I want a 12-month lease. Yeah, obviously. All of mine are on month to month now. There's no evicting anybody. The lease is up. There's just nothing. Yeah, it's fine.
You're done.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. You may start to see a trend of that. I don't know. Maybe if there's any property managers on right now, please speak up because I like to hear that. But
when I see this chart, it makes me a little bit sick because it's just like, oh man, right? And we all, I think, feel the same way. And all these stats sometimes seem harrowing, but the biggest encouragement I can give you is get as many people into the housing market right now at these rates. That's like your mission. That's your mantra. You have to be zealous about it, because if we do not, this chart will get bigger. And that's just not what we want for our community. So I know there's this, there's that, but whatever. But if you talk to enough people, for 600 credit score, they're paying about $541 per $100,000. That's it. And that's with just the 600 credit, kind of the crappier rate. So
And
this
Debbie,
should encourage you.
Debbie, I'm gonna have you speak on this next slide here in just a moment, because you're right. This kind of sickens me a little bit, because ultimately it's pushing these renters out to where they can't even afford to live anywhere. So they're going to go in default. They go into default. What does that mean for the landlord? They can't sustain not paying their mortgage. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, let me ask you this before I go to the next slide. For all of the MLS for a 3-bedroom rental, what do you think the average price is?
What's going to be right around that $1,600 mark.
No, I'm going to say for the month of December. I'm sorry. Anybody want to take a tab?
My clients were looking for a 3-bedroom, even just a 1-bath, and they were looking between 14 and 15.
Okay. That's a deal, because you know what? All of Tucson, 1904. Okay, hold on. Let me keep going. The lowest that you see on here is what? 8x710. That's 1363. Now let me show you something that is mind-boggling, because I thought it was typo. Take a look at the 4 bedrooms.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say the 4-bedroom is $400 less.
Take a look at every single area. It does the same thing. It drops when you increase. So bigger is not better when it comes to size of the home in bedroom format. Now, you may be like, so what? So if you are trying to find somebody a rental, okay, and they're looking for a 3-bedroom, you might open the search to a 4-bedroom. That's just my little nugget of the day, because ultimately, why do you think 3 bedrooms are higher priced than a 4-bedroom? Now, I went back to November, I went back to October, I went back to September. I'm like, nope, this has been a trend that I didn't even catch.
Most people want a 3-bedroom and don't want to pay extra utilities for a 4, I guess.
That could be. I got no problem sealing off that vent, closing off that door, and paying $400 less. Or, yeah, make it into your workout room since you have issues going to the gym.
Make it the office.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind. That's what we're seeing here in Tucson, though. Now, a lot of it goes because that's the median type of home that's in Tucson. That's why.
In other words, the inventory of 3-bedroom is much higher than the inventory of 4-bedroom.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's lower and that's why it's garnering more. I don't know.
Yeah.
Demand is greater. Yeah.
Done. Takeaways. Talk to me, guys, gals, ladies, gents. Any ahas? Well, fantastic. Sounds like you guys knew it all. That's good.
We do now.
So many ahas.
What's that again, Mike?
So many ahas. The current client I was talking about, for the past 3 years, they've been had a buddy deal to renting $700 a month, and basically the landlord said, "Hey, I got a cash offer. I can't refuse on it." And their lease was up February 1st, and we basically this all started around the second week of December. So we had to just get into motion and get them qualified and everything else, because they were looking at $1,400 to $1,500 for a rental for what they needed. And it kind of was sticker shock to them. And we're going to be closing on February 1st. Got them into a home at $189,900, and they'll be paying right around $1,200 a month.
You know what? And that's where I was going to go. Debbie, still on the call? Yep, I see you.
I would never leave one of these data.
Oh, there we go. So, hey,
I'm like taking notes. I'm all sweaty. I love it.
question for you. $200,000 property, VA, ballpark payment.
10,083.
1,083?
Yep.
Is that lower than that 1,900?
Yep, and that's a terrible credit score. Like, so that's a 600 credit score. So I'm trying to give you worst case scenario. You're about $500 per 100 grand.
Okay, so then let's just increase that to a $300,000 property. So now we're looking at about 1,500.
Yep.
$300,000 property, 1,600 to 1,700 on a VA loan. That's 100% financed, or did you put down payment?
That's 100% financed.
Okay. I'm just doing simple math for you guys here. Okay, so 100% finance, $300,000. They're better off by buying than they are renting.
By $200 or more.
There you go. Show
And
them.
guys, that's with terrible credit. That's with like a divorce and a foreclosure and an S corp, right? So you have to remember the savings is probably better if they have 640, 700 credit score.
So there's one thing, if I can show you guys, see that little red little thing right there? It's called loan calculator.
Yes.
Okay. Know it. Know how to use it inside and out, and show them physically. Don't let the words come out of your mouth. Show them.
Right.
And then lead them to a lender to basically get them pre-qualified. So they can understand the stress of buying in this market. You know, all joking aside, 300,000 on the resale, is that higher or lower than the median? We just had the stats. You better get this one right. It's higher. Can I be in that? With that being said, keep that in mind. And I would, right now is a great opportunity to buy, even though there was some. We have to learn to educate them in this process to show them. Cool. Any other closing words for you guys?
Yeah, I got a takeaway. My takeaway is this, that when I go to a seller, I'm also going to be coming with rental, like what they can get for a rental and what they can get to sell, because then that might be a better option for them. You know what I'm saying? And my question maybe to Debbie would be if a seller decided to rent out his house before he buys one, can he include that into his income, or how does that work?
Yeah, we have worksheets for that because we're seeing a ton of that. So that's been kind of a progressive action with your lenders. So yes, but you have to have contracts and make sure everything's in place. It's a little bit gnarly, but we can do it.
So Debbie, let me, did I hear you correctly? You're seeing a lot of individuals that are actually turning their home into a rental?
Yeah.
Instead of selling?
I would say right now you guys have, because even myself personally, I refied one of my houses to a 15-year 2.21.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to have a renter and make a profit and then buy another house, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just one little tiny mom. I'm not this big investor person, but we're just not willing to part with our properties for pretty much free money. We're not willing to do it.
I think we've done a darn good job educating the public on what to do with real estate, and that's what we're feeling right now. So we should pat ourselves on the back for this. However, if they sell outright, now they're back in the pool trying to buy again.
Right.
But if they're renting, now they have cash flow that's coming in. I get it. But you got to have the cash
Right
flow.
now, I'm also turning rentals into Airbnbs. I'm getting 4 times the rent that I was getting as a regular rental.
You know what, Christian, thank you for bringing that up. I literally 2 nights ago just put my one of my guest homes on Airbnb, and I got an offer immediately for triple the amount of what I thought I was going to get. You're right. And that's tapping into, and that's a totally different story, into what the hotel management system here in Tucson is experiencing or not experiencing. So great point, Christian. Anybody else? Any other takeaways other than that? I'll close this sucker out.
Yeah, hey, Erin, it's Teresa. This is so interesting. It's right on point. I just had this conversation yesterday with a gentleman and his wife that I went out and met, and they have a condo. And the condo complex, the HOAs having issues. They had to drain their pool. They had some foundational issues with one of the buildings. And I've noticed over the past 2 years, the prices of people selling the condos have gone down. That's really hurting their ability to get a fair market price for the condo. I did a CMA and it's lower than what he wanted. And my option to him was, I said, well, I also found out that since you're really close to the Pima Community College, that furnished units, 1 bedrooms, they're getting $985 to $1,000 a month. And this gentleman is living on $985 a month himself. And he's like, so I could double my income by renting my place out. I'm like, yeah, at least for a year or two till HOA can get this pool issue and the foundational cracks fixed. Then you're going to go back and have a higher marketable value for your place. So he was very, very intrigued, and he's got 2 children here and they've both been begging for them to come and live with them. So he's going to be able to save some money. And
You know what, Teresa, I appreciate the fact that you bring that up because everything is not about sales.
No.
I want everybody to hear that very clearly. Just because I mean, granted, that's how you get paid. I get it. But here's the deal. Do you not think that individual is probably going to refer business to you because of what you provided to them? You didn't sell their property, but guess what? You put them in a better position to double their income. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You're a raging fan.
And she'll sell it later.
There you go.
Yeah, and then he said, well, his son that wants him to move in with them, their place might be a little small, so I'm going to be looking for a house with a casita for them. So I am going to get a deal out of it.
There you go. Well, good job. Seriously. Anybody else have anything whatsoever?
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing since we're going to close out here, since we still have a good number of people on the call. We're open invitation for people to join the morning call stats and scripts and stats or scripts and tricks with Dan Caldwell in the mornings. We'd like to see a little more participation. It's a great morning starter, 8:30, quick half hour, but a lot of script practicing and so on. And with the adjustments that are coming in the marketplace, it's probably pretty important to maybe brush up on some of that stuff. So it's in the Zoom, 1KWSA, first thing in the morning, 8 o'clock, scripts and tricks with Dan Caldwell. It's great stuff. Please, everybody come in and join. We'd like to see some new faces, and it will do you good and do you well for what's coming.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry.
Good call. Stay on top of the market, stay in front of it, not behind it. So on that
Great
note,
great session, Aaron. This was really good today.
like I said, all I do is just repeat the information that's on paper. So Debbie, hopefully I met or exceeded your expectations today.
You did such a good job. I have all this work to do now. I just had to riddle my brain with all these stats.
There
So,
you go.
thank you
Well,
very
here's
much.
the thing. Last comment. If you bookshelf this stuff, it means absolutely nothing. So you got to put this to use, and it's only good for the next 30 days. And it's about 30 to 60 days old. So there you go. That's the newest and greatest that you got. So, all right. You guys have a fantastic, what is it, Wednesday? Wednesday it is. All right. You guys take care. Peace out.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Bye-bye.